or anything after that? Do you feel totally confused? Do you feel... What's the difference between your eyes leading, your head leading, your pelvis leading?
Some of them are more comfortable than others.
Some of them are more known than others?
Yes.
Your weight changed. In what way? It's good.
Did you just move that?
I was 85 kilograms before, I'm now 78. After letting the eyes lead, and I sort of came back to doing whatever the next instructor, the full circles, I found that it must have been just the weight on my pelvis was transferring in a more uniform way, whereas I think before I'd been doing this sort of
counterbalance.
Yeah, yeah. So it went on the same side.
Yay! Yay! Woohoo!
So I was feeling a little bit blurry on my left eye, and you asked us to see if while going or while making a circle leading with the eyes, can you see that flip? That can you feel that this eye or that eye want to take over? So I felt when I was leading with my right eye, which is a dominating eye, it doesn't want to give the work to this eye. She just wanna take it.
Wants to be the boss all the time.
And with this eye, I could feel that flip, that beautiful moment that this eye wants to take over. But all of that I was struggling, and I did a little bit and then left it and frustrated and then did it again, came back again, rested. But when I stood, when I was up, so I have a tendency to stand on my right feet, lateral border. But when I was standing, I was more balanced on my right foot rather than on the lateral side, just lateral side. Don't know.
Something worth investigating.
Usually when I'm doing that, in order to get it was kind of bugging me when you're going, you don't have to do a big movement. I'm going, yeah, actually I do. To get the feeling through, to feel like it's really pushing. I know I can move, but for it to actually feel right through, I need to do this huge movement. But after doing all that, I came back and I could actually put my hands up higher and feel it. I mean, I know before I could do a smaller movement, but it didn't.
You couldn't get the connection through.
Yeah, and this time I did a smaller movement. It was like, oh. So it was, really different doing it small. It was kind of nice.
Simon's got something else.
Is it?
Thanks.
I was informed also by what we did with the shifting, feeling the top of the spine earlier when you were doing that with this and tilting the head. And so I felt the influence of that in sitting as well. And so kind of like Glenn, but kind of from reverse, that I stopped doing the big movements and was finding that in even doing the small movements, I could feel the influence of the tilt of my head on my pelvis in a way that felt
very
like
direct,
my middle was allowing that to happen, which is satisfying.
Because it is, if I have an intention and I want to go over there and all I have to do is that and my weight shifts.
Yeah, I think
I've got an intention. Okay, I've got an intention to go there.
Ordinarily, there's so much sort of holding through the middle that I wouldn't even feel that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. This intentionality that with the smallest movement of the head, we're off. It's really new for some of us. Did many of you find, like Madhavi, that there was a difference between your right eye and your left eye? No? And again, that, you know, we did it in a couple of ways, but it is really interesting when you're rolling your head in lying and you can really begin to feel, do the eyes change over or does one just keep going? And what's that got to do with what we were doing the other day? Where is... No. Amy's coming. Yeah. Do you want to have a stand? Remember you were over there and where your weight was going when you were turning your head? So what could you imagine is going to happen if I'm going to turn to your right? If you're going to turn to your right, she's already closed her eyes, so we already... And where does your weight go? Nicole? Yeah? Yeah? Which eye was doing the movement?
I have to think.
Yeah. You sure?
That's feel like right.
So have a look what she's doing when she leads with the eye. It is her right eye, but it's her head that's taking her right eye.
Eyes open, maybe.
Do it eyes closed first because they might be able to see that even though I said, can you see it's really her head taking her eye for a ride? No? Or not? No? Can you feel that,
Yeah.
Nicole? Yeah? Okay, so this time, could your eye take your head for a ride?
I really have trouble. I can't even think this eye independently. Okay. What am I doing? Leading with this eye.
I'll see if I can help her a little bit. I'll see if we can get this eye to get a little bit more alive. Just gonna get you. Look at me. There it is. There. 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 No? That's starting to get it. So this is what I was talking about the other day. The eyes tonify the musculature of the whole body. They have an absolute influence. So Nicole's much more, you let your head take your eyes for a ride most of the time. Yeah? Which is, you know, that's a lot of you. When you're doing the circles, you can see it's all head.
What do you do? Just tickle it behind the ears?
Ah, 4th year, Glenn. No, really, the eyes are absolutely tied up with the suboccipital muscles in the base of the neck. And if there's any thickness in there, you know that someone's eyes aren't free. Yeah? Yeah. It works hard. Ah.
Can I ask you, if you're on a computer all the time, does that affect that? Does that have more of an impact? Like when you get up on a computer?
If your eyes already aren't well organised, it's going to have more of an impact. It's like anything.
So, you know when we did the one eye, then the other eye, as soon as I do that, I always fall asleep. Is that because these let go or something? Or what goes
Did
on?
anyone feel that their weight changed when they were doing one eye? We will tomorrow. We're going to be doing more tomorrow, and we'll do lots of, but I just really wanted to take you all in today.
But actually, I may have fallen asleep, but then when I popped up, my chest moved, that means making it.
Yay.
So, so I'm like, I know how to move my chest. That's
Yeah. You know.
Should we be, when you're up idly, is it better to have your eyes closed?
Usually better open.
Yeah.
Is that with your eyes open or closed? Yeah. Because, you know, to have your eyes open and taking them, you're saying to your brain, I want to go somewhere. I'm interested in something over there. Huh? Yeah. And you can, again, it's going to depend on, again, your ocular vestibular, I won't go into it, but, you know, how well you can calibrate the position of your head with the movement of your eyes.
Like, I don't quite understand sort of playing like that. You know what I mean? Like this, or it's on an angle.
To do your eye circles, you mean?
Yeah, like where.
So you're not thinking of the eye making a circle, right? So you've got to find for yourself. It's just like, okay, I'm going to look down. I'm going to look over there. Where do I go? Oh, I go back there. That's where my eyes are going to take me. Huh? So you're trying, but that's your head doing the movement. And again, could you see when, when she's really doing this, huh? And using all of this to take her eyes. We need both of them. It's not that one is better than the other. No? But it's for you to really understand when you're doing head circles, because some of you are compulsively always going to the opposite hip when you do your circle, compulsively. And where would, if I go over there to the opposite hip, no, I can do that. It's a very really, if my eyes are making a circle, they're making a very small circle. Does that, if you follow where my head's going? Because when I'm always going to the opposite side, my chin is always staying more in the midline. Yeah? Or maybe going to the opposite side a little bit, which is really different to if my eyes are doing the movement and my chin is making a big circle. And can you see how that will absolutely influence where your weight's going on your pelvis? Yeah? So just try it yourself.
What were the things that had with me? That's the way when it happened. Was it even the head was back? The eyes were fine.
You often find if the head is leading, often when the pelvis is leading, that's when this more happens. When the pelvis is the leader and the head's just following along. Huh? But once the head becomes the leader, it wouldn't normally do that sort of, if the head's the leader. Huh?
One thing I found doing two eyes is when I take one eye.
I love you, Jane. Maybe some more of them will find that tomorrow.
One of them was more accurate than the other.
And often one, because we're used to being more dominant one side. But it's very interesting if I keep making, and my eyes, that it will, if one eye is the leader, it often, or will, bring the weight to that side.
Like the fact that I keep making assumptions about what I'm doing. And then you say, oh, okay, use the other eye. Oh, that's the eye I'm using. I keep coming up with these, that wasn't what I was doing. All these assumptions about what I'm doing. As soon as I put my attention, I'm just like, oh.
And really, that's why it's really fun sometimes. I was just saying to Ilan before, you know, the video yourself doing an ATM. You know, it's really, because you go, wow, that's not what I thought I was doing.
Does anyone see different colours in their eyes? Because mine are still completely different colours, so it's easy to work out which one's
I was working with Carol yesterday, and we had an FI together, and Carol is very, very one-eye dominant. One ear dominant, you know, so if she listens. And there's nothing wrong, you know, it's just. So it was interesting. I was saying to Carol, you know, is it that she doesn't know where a pelvis and a legs or a feet are, or is it that she perceptually, the way she brings in information from the outside world through her teleceptors is always right oriented? That has to influence everything. Has to influence everything, because that's the information coming in from the outside world. And I can remember going back in time, this wasn't Feldenkrais's words, I think it was Guy Claxton, and he said the hardest things to change are the habits of perception. And what he meant by that was how we take in information from the outside world. So I suggested to Carol what would be really nice, and I get clients to do this a lot, if they're really one-eye dominant. I said, buy an eye patch. Buy an eye patch. Put it on at home where she knows she's safe, she knows where she is, she knows her environment, and just put it on for 5 or 10 minutes. Where she just, so it's not that she has to be consciously aware, but that her system has to find something. And that's what Feldenkrais was the master at. He would design learning situations where you had to find it.
Margaret and I were talking on the toilet last week, outside the toilet. And we noticed that we are both facing each other with the dominant eye. So that we were standing slightly sideways, talking with each other.
And you know, you need a dominant eye.
Why? Why?
Why do you think you'd need a dominant eye? I could be thing and say because you want to use a telescope, but why do you think you need a dominant eye? You don't want both eyes to be the same because they've got to keep catching up to each other. And dominant for what? Yeah. This, you know, it's like, how would we be if we didn't have a dominant hand? There's something in our system, so the eye's no different.
That's really weird to do that. Like, go on the opposite side, my nose kicks.
Yeah, a really good friend of mine that Margaret knows well, and Vera, Bertie, who was, and he would get me doing the strangest things with perception, but boy did I learn from him. So he'd just say, go for a walk, Julie, and just keep your left eye on the horizon, which is the eye I never use. Just see what it does. No, I just thought left eye on the horizon. But there's many, many things about these perceptual, how we take in information through these teleceptors that are really fun to play with. So just notice. Do you always have, I don't know, your music to one side? Do you always sit in the cinema on the same side?
Cat always sits on that foot.
Yeah, why does it sit on that foot?
It does. It arranges itself in terms of my nervous system.
Absolutely. It knows that that's not the one that's going to kick it away. It's learnt, that's a stable foot. Okay. That's the one to be on. That's not the one she's going to...
But I'm interested, if you've got to have a dominant eye to keep making these little corrections, because the whole thing doesn't stand still. You've got to be able to do that, so you have a reference point to do. You change the reference point to do again. Why would we then want to, why does it go too far so that Carol can't hear over her left ear?
It's a habit.
So
it's familiar. It's what we've learnt to do. It is just what we've learned to do. You know, it took me a long, long time to realise how right-eyed dominant I was until, I had clues. I think we were doing this in an ATM, and I realised when I went to this side, I pulled with my right side, and when I went to that side, I pushed with my right side, and I pulled with my right side, and I pushed with my right side, and I pulled with my right side, and I pushed.
I think it might feel the way we align when we're babies. Usually a baby's not in the middle of the brain.
A baby's not in the middle when it's born, let's face it. No, really, it's already. Absolutely. Absolutely. Those patterns. But just remember, a baby is never symmetrical when it's born. It's already got all its little preferences in there. Or, you know, mum always has to hold you this side because that's mum's preference. It's going to do something to it. Which eye is going to come forward to orient? Anyway, let's go back to your groups of 4. Same group of 4. And I think we've got this, did we organise the skeleton? Yay. So let's bring it over here. Is that it? That'll do us, just as long as, just get that off. Okay, so let's just have a look at the skeleton again. And I think we'll sit him there and I'll just put heaps of padding under him. And we've disconnected his bar. Yeah, we'll put him this way. Look at that. See, you don't need brain. Beautifully organised. Okay, so now I'll just get that bar stuck through one of his ribs. There we go. Now, so we're going to go back to what we were doing yesterday. Remember, we got the person to find their easy movement. No? So, I'll put him sideways. So if we do up and down first. So again, if that bar is there, if we put that, I'll put his bar in place and I start to bend him. It's very clever. It's one way you can do it. Huh? If I can let There. Yeah? And you can see most of that movement is coming through those ribs. Why not? But can you see that ability for all of that movement that can happen in the ribs? It's the same if we went up. Can you see how much those ribs can move to change their shape? And as I said, each rib, each side's got 3 joints. So then if I was going to go rotation, how much can move in the ribs? Side bending, how much can move through those ribs? Three joints each side. They articulate, there's a little joint here, just in here where the thing, and then inside it attaches to the vertebral body above and below. Yeah? So it's got lots of these little gliding, and because you've got 12 ribs, when you add them all together, it's a lot of movement. So does that help to see it, how much movement you can get through the ribs?
Can we get that? I can see like you're forcing it.
No, yeah. Go on, Fiona. Sorry.
No, that's what I mean. It's like it seems like I'm just trying to work out my head. No, I can understand it when I push this, that pushes that, you know, that there's follow through and really sometimes where does it indicate that it has that kind of process?
Okay. See if this helps. I'm not saying it will help, but see if this image helps. So, if you think of the muscles, you've got these thin back muscles that run in the gutter of the spine at the back. And there's lots and lots of different layers. I don't know all their names. There's the rotators and the transversores and they're really, really tiny little muscles that they virtually do nothing, but they allow a little bit of give. They more support the joint, if you like. Then you've got deeper and deeper layers that come down through this gutter. So most of the movements of the spine, the small movements of the spine, come through the back muscles. These are the muscles coming down here that led all these little movements. So a little movement back here will have a big impact on the front. So it doesn't have to be a very big movement back here for the front of the ribs to be able to do a lot. You've then got other bigger muscles that sweep up from the pelvis to the shoulder blade. They don't give you all of these little movements. Okay, so you've got to remember that at the front, the flexors, you have got big muscles here. There's no small muscles at the front to move the spine. You've just got big psoas muscle, which is a big muscle that comes down and goes down to the hip. You've got transversus, which is another big muscle sort of around here. So there's nothing on the front of the spine. And as soon as you hit the diaphragm, there is no muscle in the chest at all at the front of the spine. You have got a small muscle on the front of the sternum called transversus thoracis, which sort of continues down into the big transversus abdominis. But basically, there's nothing really here on the inside to move these vertebrae. So the whole front of us gets moved by the big abdominal muscles. And the big abdominal muscles are sweeping in huge planes of movement from one part to the other. So they can't give us either those tiny little differentiated movements of the spine. Am I making sense so far? Yeah? So if these are tight, if your abdominals are tight, how much are you going to restrict the movement back here? Because if you've held that and that together, as many people do, that's going to have an amazing effect on what's possible back here. Because if they're holding you, anchoring you down, all the little intercostals that are between the ribs, so you have got intercostals between the ribs, just not on, they can't really do a lot either, because these big abdominals are just saying, I'm just going to hold you in place. So we want to get all of this more mobile. The thing we're looking at with, though, is we want the abdomen, we don't want it completely let go either. So we don't want blip, because here it's the opposite. I've given up so much at the front, this has got nothing to work against. So now it has to work really hard. So we're always looking for balance. So this is my crackpot theory, and you can take it for whatever. My theory on why Michael Johnson was the fastest 200, 400 metre in the world runner. Who can do what he does? Anyone know what he does? I should say go and have a look on a video. He's brilliant. Oh my God. So what does he do? His head position could be a bit better. This is Michael Johnson running. Butts of steel. Totally using his extensors. And it's not his big extensors, he is just absolutely engaging. So his head goes back a little bit like this. So every little extensor along his spine, it's not how he walks, but every little extensor along his spine is here. So this is so free at the front to swing him through and to breathe. That's how he does. That's my theory on why he does it. Whereas a lot of the others will be here.
Julie, I heard an interview yesterday with Federer, and he said he's open on anything.
Absolutely. But he's just a brilliant learner. I'm sure there are so many Feldenkrais practitioners in Switzerland. Really, But so it's a really interesting thing. It comes back to that idea that Feldenkrais is talking about. What is it that you want to do? And to be a 200 or 400 metre runner, I have to be able to pull in oxygen. Yeah? And I can't do that if I'm... So I'm not saying it's the only way to run, but it's an incredibly beautiful adaptation of our structure that he learnt to do. Yeah. So now go back to your group of four. I'm not talking anymore. So now that you've got that image of what can happen, so you're going to change partners from yesterday, but we're going to do it on a few people. Yeah? So go back into your group of four. So the person who was sitting yesterday is now the doer. And the person who was the... You will be, but you're both going to have a go, but I just want to get this, yeah? So the person who was sitting yesterday, well then you two, you can just decide, you lot, yeah? So one of you is the